Warning. Uncharted planet detected. Scanning. Scanning. Warning. Life form detected. Life form identified. Neil Thorpe of 2D Storyteller. Incoming transmission.
Greetings, travelers, and welcome to Traveler RPG Headquarters. You can find our Facebook group by searching our name in the Facebook search tool or find a link in the video description below. Thanks for participating in our third annual Mayday Traveler Day event. It's a day we celebrate Traveler and all its additions and offshoots for all the fun times it's given us around the gaming table with friends and family. I'm your host, Frank Succardi, also known as CyborgPrime, and today I'm happy to introduce Mr. Neil Thorpe of 2D Storyteller. Welcome, Neil.
Greetings, Mr. Prime.
Greetings. Hey, man, this is your second year doing an interview for the Mayday event, so thank you very much for returning.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It was good fun last time.
Cool. I hope to come back next year.
Yeah.
So tell us about yourself. Introduce yourself. Who are you?
I go by the name.
Where are you from?
Well, I'm 41. I'm from the north of England, Yorkshire to be precise.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm known as a 2D storyteller online. That's my branding, and I make animated maps, tokens, characters, that's such like interactive maps for roleplay games to be used on virtual tabletops or digital tables for gaming.
How long have you been gaming?
I've been gaming for about 22 years, I should think. Yeah, I mean, well, I mainly got into it when I was about 19, 18 is when I firmly got into it. I did a little bit of live action stuff, LARPing, a bit before that. And I got involved with role-playing with my local role-playing group. I was very lucky, to be honest, because where I'm from, very large role-playing subculture operating out of the university. They used to take over this big refectory area, which had plenty of tables, lots of yummy vending machines. And we basically spent, from 7 o'clock onwards, we'd just take the place over on most nights. And all around this big refectory, you'd have just all kinds of role-play games going on, all kinds of worlds. Traveller, Star Wars, D&D, Vampire the Masquerade. It was fantastic. Good times.
Hey, that's cool. Do you, back in the day, did you have a favorite sci-fi book or TV show that inspired you in this realm of sci-fi?
Yeah, my favorites were always Dune and Star Wars. I always loved Return of the Jedi. And Dune, I mean, you know, some people class me as a heathen, but I was always more of a fan of the films of Dune.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't read the books till much later, also as the film of Dune. And I love good villains, you know, villains that are fun to watch, good to hate. And the Harkonnens, I just liked their horrible style. They were pretty cool. Yes. And the sandworms. How can you not love the sandworms?
Right. Yeah, Baron Harkonnen in the movie was very evil, and what they were saving is diseases and stuff.
Oh yeah, and the chest plugs. What a freaky idea that was.
Yeah, bizarre, but from the book, right?
You know, I can't remember. Probably. I
think it is. Yeah,
but I get, you know, I'm not as hardcore with the books as I am with the film. And from what I understand, there's just a mass amount of good reading material for Dune.
Yeah. So, what is it about Dune and Star Wars that really appeals to you?
I like the clash of the past and the future. I mean, particularly in Star Wars, that was some of the really dragged me in. The fact that you got this huge network of galaxies, but then you're still running into cultures which are using, you know, melee weapons like axes and halberds and all the rest of it. Alongside, you know, and then 10 foot away, you got someone with a blaster cannon or thermal detonators or starships. I love that mash of the past and the future. And I guess that was the same with Dune as well, except the time period, you know, Star Wars was more of a medieval sci-fi. Where, I mean, right down to the fact that they've got a laser sword, that in itself is just a beautiful metaphor for the whole idea. Mm-hmm. And then you got Dune, which, you know, it's the same kind of concept, except rather than being a medieval sci-fi, I suppose it was more like Victorian, you know, I don't know, like the Waterloo age, whatever. Napoleonic, that's the phrase I was looking for.
Okay.
That felt a bit more like the Napoleonic age with the future, especially in all those tight uniforms that they all had.
Jules Vernish.
Yeah, you know what? I
Flavor.
can't put my finger on the right term for that, but
So do you have
do
you have any hobbies aside from gaming that you like to pursue?
well, I like computer gaming, like most hardcore gamers, but I also do a bit of level design. I was level designer on No More Room in Hell. I made a lot of community maps for Left 4 Dead 2 under the name Lou Sapphire. You can find them online still. And painting and wargaming. I've got a real knack for buying too many miniatures and never getting around to painting them. But I'm slowly working my way through them. I'm not a great painter, but I enjoy it. It's very zen.
Are you do you paint? Are you painting humanoids, or are you painting like tanks, or what kind of miniatures are you?
At the moment, I'm into like Star Wars Legion, Star Wars Imperial Assault, and The Walking Dead. So I'm kind of mixing it up between painting stormtroopers and ATSTs, and I've actually got a guilty pleasure of an Ewok army slowly brewing, and painting up, dirty, rusted-looking cars and buildings and zombies with lots of lovely guts flying out.
Oh, cool.
I love gore. I'm an 80s gore hound.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I used to love special effects, movie special effects. You ever read Fangoria magazine?
Oh, Fangoria, man, that was the Bible of. I mean, even in my small town, there was like one shop down a back alley that no one ever spoke about, and that's the only place you could get Fangoria. It was fantastic. I loved it.
Yeah, it's a great magazine. So, so in the spirit of Traveler, I'm asking people to stat themselves. So, starting in Traveler, you get 3 background skills at level 0 that basically represent what you learned growing up before you went off to college or to start your career. So, what would you don't have to stick to Traveler canon, but what would you say your 3 background skills that you relied on as a kid? What do you think those were?
Well, a big survival technique in the rough schools I was at was telling jokes. I had to get very good at telling jokes. I'm not quite sure what you'd put that under.
So acting, social... maybe?
Yeah, acting. Yeah, okay. Acting, because I started out as an actor. Acting. Crafts, because I love to paint and model. I mean, ever since I got Hero Quest as a kid, I just love to tinker around with 28mm.
Okay.
And one skill which is not in Traveler, but it's in a game called Hull, if you've ever played it. Surrender and still look like a man. It's got. If you've never played Hull, you really need to give it a go. It's just the ultimate parody of all sci-fi role playing you'll ever see.
Oh, okay, I'll check it out.
No, the skills are just absolutely an insult to the whole role-playing genre. That's what surrender and still look like a man, pilot starships and chew bubblegum, scathing, big word, sarcasm.
You actually have like scathing sarcasm checks and things, or did you have to like
the skill name is scathing in brackets. Okay. Big word, sarcasm. That was the actual skill.
Cool.
Sorry, just another classic example of Hull. Another skill. They didn't have melee. Instead, they had press sharp things into soft things that scream and bleed.
It's pretty funny.
Well, it's for adults.
Yes. Did you ever go to a university or join the military?
No, I didn't join the military. Not my bent, as it were. I went into university to study acting for film and filmmaking the first time around. And then a few years later, after doing a big stand-up comedy career for about 10 years, I went and did digital film production and visual effects second time around. And that's kind of the skill set I've been nurturing since, really.
Let's say there was like in Traveler, a military draft. What military branch would you hope or expect to end up in?
Well, I'll be honest, in a firefight, I'd probably just get my brains blown out. So I think I'd be more along the intelligence lines, sneaking back behind the lines, using my acting skills. And then if I'm ever caught, I can surrender and still look like a man. Or,
peel off your face, Mission Impossible style. I was only acting.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, an overweight 007. So maybe
gotcha.
007.
All right. So that gets us to statting yourself. So what would you guess your personal stats are? So you got your strength, dex, and endurance. Average would be 7. Human max is 15.
Oh, strength. Go on, give me a 10.
Okay.
Endurance, I'll be honest, probably about 5.
Okay, dex.
But dex, I'd put it 11 because when I was studying acting first time around in England, we got something called being a classically trained actor, and that means you study singing, dancing, and acting.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as no one would ever want to see it, I actually wasn't that bad at ballet, which is a bit of a confession. I don't know why, but I did ballet for about 4 years.
I don't know if they still do that, but it was popular for football players to do that back in the 70s, take ballet training.
Hey, anyone who wants to get some... I found it good for sword fighting when I was doing lab. Sure. All that footwork, you're really... It's not that you're light on your feet, but you're very agile, you know, where you put your weight distribution and such. It's incredible.
Interesting. All right. So then we got intellect and education and social standing.
Oh, see, my education would be pretty good. I'm not sure about my intellect though. I feel very thick most of the time. So I put my intelligence at 7. I don't think I'm stupid, but I wouldn't call myself smart. Education, put there at about 10, 11.
Okay. And your social skills / social standing?
Oh, well, my standing would be terrible, but my social skills, you know what? I'll give it a 12. I'm pretty good with the old social side of things.
All right. Okay, so tell me about how you first got into gaming. How did you find out about it?
I was having a drink with a friend of mine. I was far too young to be drinking, to be fair. I was only about 16, which even in England is considered young to start drinking. And he said, oh, I've got to go down to my gaming group playing, I can't remember what he was playing. I think he was playing D&D. I didn't know what he was on about, but I asked him, you know, could I come along? He took me down. And that was the first time I saw the refectory with everybody playing. And it was just fascinating. Bearing in mind, all I'd really had up until that point was Hero Quest and some choose your own adventure stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't even aware something like this existed. I mean, even in England, we'd got the whole, Dungeons and Dragons is the devil kind of thing. We heard rumors about that.
Yeah,
but no,
that was the satanic panic of the 80s.
Yeah, which, I don't know, we're cynics in England, so I don't think we all just kind of went, meh.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the first time I'd heard about it. And then I arranged for the week after to come back, give it a go. I did, and yeah, it was fantastic. Loved it.
What was it? What was it that drew you to it, or what? What was the appeal?
Well, I've always been fascinated with film. Film's always really grabbed me. I love that visual image in your mind. So for me, that's what dragged me into it. Because, I mean, I didn't really start off liking D&D. That was the first thing I played. But what I really enjoyed was the idea of this image that was all being painted in our heads, and that we were all kind of contributing to as we went. And it was just such a weird experience. It was like everyone reading a book at the same time in the same head, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
That's a good analogy. Go on.
Yeah, and we were all painting this image, this movie scene, and it was just so vivid. Especially, and you know, at any moment you can contribute to it, like saying something or doing something. It was just, that's what got me. It was like being able to make a film with a bunch of friends or strangers.
So that's when you knew you were hooked. Just the feeling that you got from the creative process, collaborating with your friends.
Definitely. And from that point on, I knew I wanted to run something. I had no idea what I wanted to run, but I knew I wanted to run something. I wanted to make my own movie in people's minds.
So that's when you became got into GMing, or how did that go?
Well, it's terrible at first, when when you're young and you don't really read the rules as much as you should do.
Sure.
You fly by the seat of your pants. You just make decisions off the fly, and it's usually some god awful stuff that you come up with. But that's how you start everything, isn't it? Terribly, and then you just keep trying it until you get a bit of an idea and realize where you went wrong, and then sooner or later you just kind of click. And I think what it is, as a GM, you've got to have the main thing you've got to have in your mind is what kind of story you want to tell in some way, shape, or it's not all down to you, but at least know where you're coming from, so your players can feel comfortable and get a sense of the kind of world that they're existing in. And then from there, it all seems to just kind of come together and unfold.
So
my main style, when I'm writing a game, sorry to when I'm writing a game or a story, something like that, I try not to write too much, because there's a certain point, I think, that you reach that is just you being hopeful that things are going to go that way. One thing I was never any good at was like when you get a pre-gen adventure and you meant to read through it and then take the players through it. And I tried it a few times, and it was an abject failure. And what was worse is, because I was desperately trying to not do it wrong, because I had this book in front of me that told me what to do, I just messed the whole thing up. And even the scenes that I, got right, in inverted commas, would come out as a bit dull or a bit static. And it's when I threw the pre-gens away, so to speak, and just thought, you know what, I'm not going to worry about being true to this book or that book. I'm just going to try and create a world that I'd like to tell it in. That's when I started to actually get some purchase and actually start making stories with players that I was proud to have in my memories, so to speak. These little movies that we just watched on his own. So what I do is I kind of get an idea of a few scenes that I'd like to happen in the game, and a rough kind of order that they might happen in, like the main scenes in a story arc or structure. And then get a bad guy in my mind, someone I'd really like to play, someone the players would love to hate and go up against, and get a rough idea of what they want, why they're doing what they're doing, and what they are. And then from there, I'd let the players lead the first few sessions. And basically, if they're a space pirate or something like that, then I'll have them raid a few ships and see what bounties they can get out of it. And then what you usually find is, somewhere in that process, you'll find an opportunity for your antagonist to smash into their plot line, to introduce himself into their world. And in some way, the players will usually not let you down. They'll want to get entangled in it in some way. Even the problem players will want to suddenly jump in and do something insane. And then from there, you've got it to a certain degree. The melting pot started to mix up. And it's just a case of then finding opportunities to put these ideas that you've had in there. And then players, usually they're quite eager and they're quite keen to do things. And that's what I'm trying to cultivate in Act 1, so to speak. This, for them to get so into their characters that I don't need to wait for them to think about, what will my character do? They know what their character's going to do. I've just then got to kind of facilitate it. And then hopefully they'll give me an opportunity to get onto the next step of the storyline, and so on and so on and so on, until all that madness comes together and you finish your story. That's the way I kind of approach it.
So I was going to ask if you prefer to be the GM or the player, but sounds like you prefer to be the GM.
I do, because I like, it's like with films. What I always wanted to be was a director, because I like working in all the different parts of a film, and it's the same for a game. I like to paint these pictures. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy having a good game as a player as much as anyone.
Mm-hmm.
It's just hard to find a good GM that really wants to tell a story.
Do you remember what your first game you GM'd was? What game system it was?
I can't. You know what? I've become such an old bugger. I can't quite remember what it was. I do remember I ran a lot of White Wolf. My first Traveller game. That was where I really managed to flex my sci-fi muscle and really get into it. And I did what I tended to do a lot in the early days, which was I kind of like mashed a couple of film ideas together and see what I came out with. So I was really big on The Thing and John Carpenter. I still am. And so I kind of like mixed The Thing with Dark Star a bit. I don't know if you're a fan of that film at all.
Yeah, that's an old John Carpenter movie
Yes.
about these guys blowing up planets.
Yeah, but basically it's about this bunch of guys doing a job that they hate, and they've been trapped on this ship together doing this job for like 9 years, and they're all just sick of the sight of each other. So I set it on this mining station, which is orbiting this planet in the middle of nowhere, in the arse end of the galaxy, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And this planet's like just on the outer part of the event horizon of a black hole, a dying star. So, but there's this really important mineral on this planet that they can't find as densely anywhere else. And so when I didn't create the characters for them, I let them make their own characters. But what I tried to do is I gave them like dark secrets. So they're all hiding something from each other. And all these dark secrets, I designed them so basically, as they would come out, the players would start to trust each other less and less and less, or hate each other more and more and more. I just wanted to create this disharmony, like you've got in the thing, where they're basically all each other's worst enemies. And then I drew from the AI virus in Traveller. I liked that idea, especially being a fan of Space Odyssey 2001.
Right.
And so the ship like kind of turns against them halfway through, and then of course, because I love Darkstar, this organism was on the ship that was slowly threatening to kill them all. And I think in the end there was one guy left alive because they'd all killed each other, or the alien had killed each other, and the AI it wouldn't give anyone anything but mushroom soup. I think it's because I hated mushroom soup and I was just trying to make things worse for them. But I think the one sole survivor ended up just like he couldn't get the escape pod going, and ended up just being on the ship as it went into the event horizon, and eventually collapsing into a singularity. So yeah, and that was a lot of fun to watch the madness play out. I got the idea of a black hole from the Disney black hole film.
Right. I like the just the Doom, the doomed ship basically, or the doomed crew.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, that's in a way, I think despair is an important part of sci-fi, especially sci-fi horror, because one of the things, for any Lovecraft fans out there, one of the things that's so terrifying about the universe is once you really appreciate what it is, you start to realize just how insignificant you are. That's brought the interview up a bit, isn't it?
Oh yeah, thanks a lot.
And here's Tom with the weather.
So what was it that drew you to Traveller from D&D and the other games that you started
I like the
playing?
sandbox nature of it. I'm a massive sci-fi fan anyway. It didn't try to force you to run a particular type of story. It just kind of gave you the system for the universe and what was going on in all these different sectors. And you kind of, from there, you were free to kind of shape it into the kind of universe you wanted to set it in. And that's what really attracted me to it, because it was like giving me the role play tools to make whatever story it was I wanted to make. Because you can do whatever you like with it. You can do high fantasy, something like Darkstar, something like Space Odyssey 2001, be as weird or as stereotypical or you like.
Do you have a favorite Traveller career?
It'd have to be Rogue for me, which I know is a bit of a cop-out. But I like playing something that's against the grain, something that's like not so in the box. A criminal, basically, a ne'er-do-well.
A smuggler or what? Mafia? Space mafia?
I like pirates.
Pirates?
I know it's cheesy, but I love pirates. It's the idea of space pirates, coming across someone's ship, finding a way to dock with it and just taking everything they have. But I was a big Han Solo fan, so the idea, when Lando said, "Get out of here, you pirate," I always kind of like took that on board. Thought, yeah, what would a pirate in Star Wars be like?
Let's say you're at a gaming store and you see some people sitting down to play their first game of Traveller. You feel compelled to give them some advice. What advice do you give the players sitting down for their first Traveller game?
The players, well, my advice to them is think of your favorite sci-fi character, and then think of your favorite character in a different movie that's not sci-fi, and try and find a way to jam them together in some way. And that unholy concoction between the two is a concept for your character for the game, and just run with it. Run with it fearlessly. Make all the mistakes possible. Just go with it and have fun. Because one thing that's easy to forget sometimes with games, especially when we read so many rules upon rules and upon rules, is we are just in it for the laughs and the giggles and the great storylines. Fun's got to come first for me, always.
All right.
So just go with it. Make a wonderful mess.
Okay. And then what advice would you give the Traveler referee?
Well, I suppose not a million miles different. Think of your favorite sci-fi villain, and then think of a villain that's got nothing to do with sci-fi, and then try and give me a sec. Oh, excuse me, just coughing my lungs up. Yeah, think of your favorite sci-fi villain, and then think of your favorite villain that's got nothing to do with sci-fi. Jam them together, and then watch some sci-fi films and get some ideas from that. And don't worry too much about treading in, doing what's never been done before. Don't worry about that. Everything's been done before. So just try and go with it and see what happens, and just let your players be whatever they are, and just try and facilitate that until you're ready to actually show them what you've got for them and rock the world. Make it significant. Make it a story worth telling.
What's your favorite part about being a Traveler GM? Do you like to roll up characters, or do you like make up random planets and the stories that go on around there, or like what's your?
I do love making backgrounds to like sectors and stuff like that, and planets, and how they've interacted, how they've grown, where they've come from. But my favorite bit is I love the character generation system. I love this idea that you can start a character, and with a few dice rolls and a few bits of inspiration, they've got this rather well fleshed out background. I mean, just the fact that you can die before you even start playing your characters, I think it's a really bold way of doing it, and I think it's got guts, it's got a lot of heart. And that's my favorite bit. I love making characters, because characters what it's all about. I love flaws in characters.
I think that being able to dying during character generation just goes to show that space is a dangerous place, and it can be dangerous, and it can kill you.
Yeah.
And so they kind of carried that over. Now the latest editions of Mongoose Traveler, I think you can still die, but it's amazingly rare. Instead, they have mishaps, but it is cool to like generate this whole like history. It's like a storytelling thing that as you generate your character, it gives you some events that happen along the way that kind of inform or can inform your decisions. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I just really respect that in a system.
Yeah, it's really cool.
A lot of systems just play it safe.
Yeah. So let's say you're sitting down, you just rolled up a character, and or you see these kids rolling up characters, and they're looking through the supply catalog. What 3 items would you suggest they put in their Traveler character's backpack?
Can I draw from any sci-fi?
From any sci-fi. Yeah, I'm not
any
gonna.
sci-fi. Brilliant.
I'll tell you afterwards what some other people have said. But go on.
All right. Babelfish from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Okay.
Just so you can understand all the different languages. You never have to worry about it. I don't think I could resist saying lightsaber. How could I not?
Okay.
I suppose if I'm going to go lightsaber, then we might as well say to hell with it and have the personal body shields from Dune.
All right. So
that way you can
fish.
go around killing people, and with the Babelfish, you'll understand all the screams.
Oh, good point. Very good. Yeah.
You can understand it. Please do not kill me.
All right. So you got the Babelfish, the lightsaber, and the Dune personal shield.
Yeah. What were some other things?
Other folks had suggested a towel.
Oh,
bring a towel.
They beat me there. That's a damn good one.
Yeah, a multi-tool, like a Leatherman multi-tool has been common. A personal computer, little hand computer, communications device. There's been a few common things, but people. Hitchhiker's Guide is a go-to.
I would have loved it if everyone managed to pick a Hitchhiker's Guide. That would be so good.
Well, where else do you go to, right? It's the guy.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
So tell us about when you became a content creator for gaming. When did you start producing stuff commercially? What inspired you to do that?
Right. Well, like most role players, I've had my own ideas of worlds that I'd like to create. Role play games, I think every role player's had some idea like that. And then, I got to the age where I was shifting from different jobs, which weren't exactly inspiring. And I'd been a university lecturer for film and VFX for a while. And it was good fun. But I realized as much as I enjoyed it and as good as the job was, I just wasn't getting the same gratification out of it. So I thought there's something not right here. And I was talking with my partner and she just said, you know what, you got to find what you love. And that's exactly what I went off and did. And it turned out that I still, to this day, love making stories with games. And I thought, I'm just going to try it. So I'd had this idea for a zombie game kicking around. So I finally got out everything I'd done for it. And I had delusions of grandeur, thinking I could bring out this massive game and do everything on my own. And I used all the skills I had for VFX to make map tiles and characters and such. But I couldn't get it finished was the be-all and end-all. But I had all these assets that I made for it, a modular map tile system, characters, etc. And I was very proud of it. So I thought, I'll just give it a go at releasing it and see what it does. So I released it, Bring Out Your Dead, core set I called it, because I intended on lots of expansions, but which have never happened yet. And it did really well. And from there, I thought, well, what else can I make? And that's when I went on to make Galaxy Interface, which I thought would be a good way of mapping out sectors and have a nice, really inspiring visual tool in front of you and your players. Because it's designed like a computer screen with animated planets and animated space stations and warp gates and things like that. I wanted it to be just like this beautiful little visual reference that maybe even people with the digital TV gaming tables, if you sat around it, so it would actually feel like you were sat at a digital computer in a sci-fi world. And then I went on to make some things for D&D, and I made some more stuff for sci-fi. So that's basically how it all came about.
That's cool. Tell me a little bit more about your zombie pack. Like, what kind of stuff is in there? Like your original Bring Out Your Dead.
I'm a massive fan of the original zombie movies. My favorite one being Day of the Dead, 1985. There was this. The opening scene on that is where they land in a helicopter at the edge of a city, and it's set right towards the end of the zombie apocalypse, where there's almost nobody left. And it's just such a memorable scene. They got to such a low point in surviving that they're going round to these cities, standing at the edge of them with a bullhorn and just shouting, "Is anybody there?" And that's what they have to do to see if anybody's still left alive. And then they go off and the story goes elsewhere. Fantastic film. But I always wondered, well, what if they were people who had to live in those dead cities and they had no choice? Because that's where the absolute last of the supplies was. And so I made modular map tiles to basically recreate zombie apocalypse urban areas, streets, buildings, that kind of thing. With that pack, I just wanted you to be able to break it out and create a zombie apocalypse city in just a few minutes. And I'm proud to say what I ended up managing to create.
I've seen your 3D maps, and man, they're great. I love the animated elements. Always have a little surprise or add a little. What do I want to say? They add a little something that you didn't expect. Like you see a static map normally when you're playing these games, and then suddenly the gate opens or like the bridge falls apart. Or like whatever.
That was something I kind of stumbled onto. I'd made Bring Out Your Dead, and I made Galaxy Interface. So I'd done a static pack and I'd done an animated pack. And then I thought, I was using Roll20 more and more, and thought, you know what? What's in between these two? And that's where the interactive maps idea came from. So that I made several Dungeons and Dragons ones where rather than just the whole thing being animated or just the whole thing being static, there are parts of the map you could click and something will happen. It's like in Dwarven Mountain, there's a frozen lake in that, and there's an asset you can put on the frozen lake where later if you click it, and it's kind of like setting a trap for your players, you can click it, press play, and the ice breaks underneath them, exactly when the GM wanted, exactly where the GM wanted. And that got me onto this idea of interactive map packs. So like Elven Forest, Dwarven Mountain, High Seas, and just now I've released Hostile Organism. So I've done the idea of interactive maps for sci-fi now as well. And that's why I'm trying to give GMs what I would have loved to have had back in the day.
They're brilliant, man. Your High Seas one, especially impressed me have like sea monster tentacles with like sailors in them and waving them around. It's like great stuff. And you did
See, unlike some people, I did release the Kraken.
yes, and your hostile organism is, great sci-fi version of that. I mean, it's got people being dragged into the vents and like, it's great. And
sci-fi doors, opening in that sliding way, which doesn't sound like a big thing, but just being able to control that as a GM, that does add a certain amount of atmosphere to your game. These little details.
It does. How long does it generally take from idea from conception to delivery?
Well, I mean, every pack's a different shape, so to speak. But on average, if I'm doing a full pack that I want, because I'd like to give them as much as I can. I don't want them to have to do much patchwork. I want them to have something that can just go away and start using it straight away. So I try to give them as much as I can as far as different types of assets go. So on average, I'd say a pack from concept to delivery would be between a month to, if everything's going wrong, about 3 months tops. After 3 months, I just can't rationalize working on it any longer. So I've got to bring it to a close. But
gotcha.
Hostile Organism was 3 months, but that was also due to a lot of other things that went on and lockdown. I didn't get a chance to work on it solidly. So,
are you a lone wolf, or do you work with a team? Do you?
I create alone, but I have recently decided to join a bit of forces in collaboration with a certain guy called CyborgPrime, and there's an interstellar explorer pack you can get where you'll get galaxy interface, but also the starship inner workings and maps to go along with it.
Oh yes, I've heard about that.
Don't forget the interstellar explorer pack on Drive-Thru RPG, Cyborg.
Yes. Thank you for plugging that.
Hey, we're in it together.
I know, it's nice to collaborate with like-minded people. That's for sure. So what's your favorite type of content to produce? Do you like to do maps? Do you like to come up with story, rules?
I love the interactive maps. Because usually it gives me a chance to make something really special that not many other people, or no one I've found so far, is really doing. But they are hugely time consuming, and they're extremely difficult because you got to get everything to line up. The lighting's all, you got to, and that takes a lot of work and a lot of trial and error. So I do enjoy making them, but I'm stepping more and more into fully animated battle maps, which I'm really loving because I get to do some audio soundscape work on that. And it's like in film that, the old saying is audio is 70% of the video. And they're right. And you can create scenes, moments that loop and just create a really nice map for the people to get inspired by. And I'm enjoying that more and more.
Tell us about your most recent product, Hostile Organism.
Hostile Organism. Well, it's set in an industrialized sci-fi future. So in many ways, it's slot straight into Traveler quite well. And it's basically set on a space station or spaceship with a modular tile set. So you can basically build the interior layout however you like, rooms and corridors, so you've got all your typical expected things, corners, T-junctions, crossroads. But then you've got like the bridge, med bay, cargo, and a docking bay with lots of animated goodies in there for you to surprise your players with, or just to make it look atmospheric. Like you can have because there's also characters in there, so you can have them sat at consoles and such, or have them, like you say, dragged into vents and being murdered by a life form which is on board. That's the concept of it. There's a life form stuck on board the ship, killing the crew, and they're trapped on board. So you can build your own starships, have characters in there for them to be torn apart or live or die or be heroes, and create an interesting custom-made dynamic space for them to all go around.
So, like, is it just corridors, or like what kinds of things will I find in this product?
No. There's corridors. There's vents for your heroes to crawl through. There's also the rooms on a ship that you might expect. All this stereotypical tropey rooms, like I say, medbay, bridge, etc. So you got rooms and corridors to make your own interior for ships and space stations or whatever it is you want to portray. It's fully modular, so you can fit just about any of the pieces together in whatever combination you like.
It's really creative. I really love it. It's a great product. What do you feel? What do you think the best feature or benefit is?
Well, I mean, the modular part took a lot of effort. because you've got to get everything to line up perfectly. And for the most, I'd say 99% of it does line up perfectly. So that's probably the feature I'm most proud of, because it took so much work. The animations and interactions, they're not as time consuming once you've got the assets built. And that can be quite frustrating, because you might put a lot of time and effort into a really complex animation, and then you finally hit the render and then get it to its final project in like just a few hours, and you're like, oh damn, I spent so long ramping up to that. I thought there'd be more going on, but no. But once it's done, it's done. But I'd say, yeah, my favorite part is the modularity of it, the fact that it all slots together so nicely, and you do get the feel that you're inside this industrialized spaceship.
Yeah, you can really make a alien-esque installation or ship really fast with these kind of geomorph tiles you stick together. It's brilliant.
Modular tiles, they let the GM make the kind of place they want to make, and not only, I like to keep GM's imagination inspired. I like to give them plenty of juicy toys to play with, because at the end of the day, they put a lot of effort into running their games. So I want them to have as much fun as the players.
That's great, and it comes across. What's the? Tell us about some other popular titles in your product line. Well, tell us about more about Galaxy Interface. What kind of stuff will I find in there?
In Galaxy Interface, you'll find all the assets you need to recreate a sci-fi console to map out your campaign. So much in the same way that D&D campaigns will have a big map of the world that they're exploring with their adventurers, I wanted to give sci-fi gamers the same thing for Traveller or whatever sci-fi game they're playing. It works for any sci-fi game. It's system agnostic. So in that, you'll find animated planets rotating, subspace anomalies doing weird things, warp gates. All these things are animated, looking pretty. And then in it, you also get some really nice space backgrounds to basically lay it all out on. And once you're in a VTT, you can put a grid on there, and you get some computer HUD icons effectively to like track the location of your spaceship and your players. So it's basically a digital animated customizable campaign map for your sci-fi game.
Great stuff. So what have you been up to this last year and during the COVID situation?
The COVID, I've been working more on towards my Patreon, which is coming this summer. I can't go too deep into that because you never know who's listening. But I've got some ideas which are going to be coming out on Patreon. Also looking into expanding onto different sites like Drive-Thru RPG and Astral. And working on Hostile Organism, which, as I say, it took a lot longer than I would like, but sometimes an idea just takes as long as it takes.
Have you managed to how have you adjusted your gaming schedule? Are you mostly playing by remote or just with close family members?
Well, with the lockdown, I've had to just play online,
right?
Which I'm happy about because I can also make things for the game. I love online RPG, but also my nephew, he's getting more and more into it. So I'm wanting to get him over in the summer and put some of these assets I'm making for my Patreon to the test.
So, what are your plans for this next year? You have anything in the works?
Well, the big thing I've got plenty more packs for VTTs coming out. They're going to be pretty regular. Now I've got Hostile Organism out of the way. I'd like to get some more quickly achieved products out there. I've got a fantasy version of Hostile Organism, which is basically set in a dungeon. So you'll get a modular dungeon with it, but also, you'll get interactive animated traps. So these triggerable things I was talking about, you can, really surprise your players, kill them and torture them in interesting and wonderful ways. Is my inspiration for that.
All right.
Get some more. So maybe I might do an expansion for Hostile Organism. But I've got to really focus on launching my Patreon in the summer because I have some beautiful animated maps coming up for that.
Fantastic. I can't wait to see them. Are you...
And sci-fi is going to play a big focus on that.
Oh, good.
Oh, yes.
More sci-fi, more sci-fi.
I missed working on sci-fi. I love my fantasy, but I always end up missing my sci-fi.
I started out in D&D, and I always loved it, but I didn't feel at home there until I started playing. I just love sci-fi better.
I like sci-fi and fantasy for different reasons that are similar, but they're not the same. It's this world that's not like our own. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Do you have any? Do you ever go to
sci-fi? Sorry, go on.
No, didn't mean to step on you there.
No.
I was just wondering if the now that you're getting a handle on COVID and things are starting to open up more and more, are you planning on hitting any conventions or
I
local
can't
gaming
see me
groups
getting
or
to a
anything?
convention this year just because I've had a couple of personal medical things going on.
Mm.
But once my Patreon's launched, I can see me making myself to way to a few conventions just to show things off, try and spread the word a bit.
Yeah,
Some
cool.
of what I'm working on will really shine when you see it in person, which is another reason why I've held off on it until this COVID nightmare has run its course.
Right. Yeah, good idea. So, how can people find you and your products? Do you have a website or a Twitter?
Googling 2D Storyteller is always a good start. You can find me on Facebook, Roll20, Astral, Twitter, and DriveThruRPG. So if you just put 2D Storyteller, Facebook or Twitter or Astral or Roll20 or DriveThruRPG, you should find me relatively easily. I mainly live out of my Facebook page at the moment, as I've not got a website up. That might change in the coming year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's usually the best place to find me.
Great.
If you
Cool.
want to find the marketplace, my work, Roll20 might be the best first stop off for you. So Roll20, 2D Storyteller. But there's all the links for that on my Facebook page. So
All right, and
whichever
we'll
one you want
include.
to find best.
All right, and we'll include links to all of those places in the description of this video, so
Very
people
kind
can
of you, Sam.
link to your stuff. Cool, man. Well, hey, man, we've come to the end of our interview.
Well, thanks for having me again. It's been fun. I'm looking forward to next year, and hopefully I'll have plenty of really nice things to talk to you about. I wish I could tell you it all, but give me time.
Okay, I can't wait to see it. It'll be a surprise. Well, folks, I'm your host, Frank Succardi, also known as CyborgPrime, and I've been talking with Neil Thorpe of 2D Storyteller. Neil, thank you so much for participating in our third annual Mayday Traveler Day event.
Thank you very much for having me, Cyborg, and I'll see you next time.
All right. And thank you, dear listener, for joining us today. That's all for now, travelers. Until next time, happy traveling.